The subject that we chose to address is shock advertisement. Our group consists of Suela Haka, Sinja Fung, Maria Stefanidou. Advertisement has dominated our lives, having a significant impact on our mental health and creating false needs. One form of advertisement, which is most effective nowadays, is shock advertisement. We must, however, emphasize that there are more forms of advertisement which are not going to be analyzed, such as social media advertising, paid search advertising, and print advertising. Shock advertisement aims to attract consumers' attention in order to push the boundaries of what is morally acceptable.
Definition of shock advertising. Shock advertising is a technique designed to cause intense emotional reaction to consumers by using images that challenge social norms, with the main goal of being unpredictable and provocative, bringing the receiver to a place where it is difficult to ignore advertisement.
Now we're continuing with the effects of shock advertising. Some scientists argue that shocking ads, of course, evoke stronger feelings among the consumers. Shock advertising could also refer to the usage of emotional appeals such as humor, sex, or fear. The effects of shock advertising could also be explained by the theory of selective perception. The consumer unconsciously chooses which information to notice, and this kind of selection is dependent on different perceptual filters which are based on the consumer's earlier experiences. Using shocking pictures could affect the way consumers perceive your brand and quality of your product.
Examples include the use of blood and gore, diseased organs and human body parts, and so on. Thus, it can expose any taboo but typically has an unnecessarily sexually suggestive imagery.
However, several of Benetton advertisements have also been a subject of much praise for heightening awareness of significant social issues and for taking a stand against infringement on human rights, civil liberties, and environmental rights. Benetton's advertisements have featured images of portions of men's and women's bodies with tattoos that say HIV positive. A black woman breastfeeding a white infant, as well as a newborn infant still attached to its umbilical cord, which was intended as an anthem to life but was one of the most censored visuals in the history of Benetton ads.
Calvin Klein has also received media attention for its controversial advertisements. Several of Calvin Klein's advertisements featured images of teenage models, some who were reportedly as young as 15, in overly sexual and provocative poses. Although Klein insisted that these advertisements were not pornographic, some considered the campaign as a form of soft porn that was exploitative, shocking, and suggestive.
These public service advertisements feature in magazines, television, and on the internet displayed pictures of smokers' faces and lips being hooked with fish hooks to illustrate how they were hooked on cigarettes. When you're pregnant, smoking isn't only harmful for your own health, but also your baby's. When you're breastfeeding, you pass the toxins from the cigarettes to your child. Smoking has a negative impact to men's sperm. It makes it weak and possibly incapable of reproducing and having a kid in the future. Now we are going to watch a video.
Shocking ideas are in just about every creative. Any person worth their salt as a creative is always looking to push the boundaries.
Advertising is, increasingly bland, which makes it really exciting when you see the exceptions to that rule.
Shock is really useful because it wakes people up, it gets people talking.
Creators are wired to think of something different, to think of something that's going to, create controversy or get noticed. That's our job.
Great work that comes out of the Far East, where a bunch of 7 or 8 year olds run around a shopping centre asking for a light, for a cigarette. And it's really fucking shocking to see these kids asking for a cigarette because they're 7 years old and they keep on getting told no by these smokers, no. And they and suddenly the penny drops that if it's wrong to give a child a lighter or a cigarette, then why is it right for you to smoke? It's shocking for the right reasons. It gives a powerful message, and it's not, just for argument's sake and to be controversial, sticking 3 fingers up your ring piece and thinking that's funny. It's properly it's interesting and intelligently shocking.
I suppose the most shocking campaign of ours of late was the Holocaust on Your Plate campaign, where we juxtapose photographs of Nazi concentration camps with certain practices on factory farms. Obviously, when it then got rolled out to Germany, there were some issues with it, but remarkably successful, and got people to take stock of what the message was. You can take an issue and you can be outrageous, but it's got to be good. If it's not good, that's when it fails.
You've got to get yourself noticed, I think. And I think that any advertising man, any marketeer and that will say that risk is a huge part of what you do.
The fact is that shock is part of normal advertising. Even mainstream advertising, like say alcohol brand, is going to be accepted by some and others are going to find it very offensive.
I think campaigns we ran was the creation of a beer called Hello, My Name is Vladimir, which was a beer that was deliberately described as not for gays, as a sarcastic attack on Vladimir Putin's homophobic rules and regulations and legislation in Russia. In order to get across the sarcasm, we had to be really deadpan with everything. But equally, we weren't just talking about other breweries here. What we were talking about was one of the most powerful men in the world. And I've got to say that you pick up the phone to a journalist and you think, what the fuck are we doing? Is this actually going to work? Is everyone going to think we're insane? Is anyone going to believe us? And to some extent, if I don't get that little bit of panic, then I don't think we're necessarily pushing it from the last idea. So it's reassuring as much as it is nerve-wracking at that point.
My name's BJ Cunningham. I'm an entrepreneur, and I created a brand of cigarettes called Death Cigarettes, which created a stir. You see, I didn't even think it was provocative. I thought it was obvious. In fact, I think it's provocative to call a brand of cigarettes Camel or Marlboro or anything else. In fact, the least provocative thing a cigarette should be called is, if you like, death, given that it's the only legally available consumer product that kills people when used exactly as intended. Weirdly, the anti-smoking lobby took issue with a brand of cigarettes called Death. The tobacco industry, nobody wanted to see a guy waving a skull and crossbones coming into the village, and the tobacco industry took massive issue. The government took massive issue. Everybody took issue with it. And there's so much hypocrisy and so much lies in the world of tobacco. Death Cigarettes was building a virtual bonfire, and we just kept putting logs on that fire. And if that fire burnt brightly, more and more people came and sat round our bonfire and listened to our story. And I guess if your story is relevant and interesting, or even provocative and interesting, people get their mates to come and sit around the fire too. And we had a big fire, and we had lots of people around it, and everybody had an opinion.
Shock in advertising is increasingly rare because I think clients are more risk averse.
When you're pitching an idea to a client, they want to see something controversial. They're not necessarily going to run it.
If the client isn't a little bit scared, chances are you haven't put forward a good enough idea. Should be a bit scary. Like, is this going to work? I don't fucking know. I've never done it. Okay, great. Let's have a go.
They like to see that their agencies are prepared to come up with brilliant, different, alternative, sometimes shocking ideas.
An agency's job is to challenge a client, to bring the client to the next grandest version of the greatest vision that client ever held about who they really are. And that client maybe can't do it on their own. That's why agencies exist.
Morning. Can I give you some info? Morning, sir. Take a leaflet. Leaflet, guys. Morning, buddy. How are you? Would you like to take a leaflet? About the poor? you like to take a leaflet, mate?
What do you mean, fuck the poor?
Fuck the poor. Fuck 'em.
That's disgusting.
What's all this? What do you think we should do?
It's hard to get a job if you ain't got a place to live.
I came from a poor country. She just fucked me as well, yeah?
They've hit rock bottom. There's a reason for that. You should be thinking of a better way to get them off the street.
The guy's cold down there, go give him a blanket.
Is this a joke?
We're gonna become bitter, bruv, inside.
I've been homeless for 2 years.
You've got no fucking heart.
I don't respect that at all.
You're just standing there like an idiot.
You not think it's too far? That was offensive.
Help the poor. Anyone got any spare change, folks? Help the poor. Help the poor, please, folks. Anybody?
Shock is a fire starter, but you've still got to burn the fire. You've got to have some logs. So if all you're doing is continuously shocking people, then you're pretty pointless. If actually you've got a story to build and a story to tell, then shock is a great way to start that bonfire.
I think
Warning: the following images are from different advertisements and they are provocative and disturbing. So if you cannot handle that, you can leave the meeting. AIDS prevention ad. The ad is very explicit with tongues and male privates foremost. When you view the ads, they are sure to hold your attention for that split second longer than normal to deliver the important message. Campaign against child poverty. The print advertisement have the tagline, "There are no silver spoons for children born in poverty," and they depict a wailing baby with either a crawling cockroach or poisonous liquid going down the throat.
Your skin color shouldn't dictate your future. Everyone should be equal and treated with the same kindness and love.
Liking a picture on social media doesn't help. You have to show that you care through actions like donating and volunteering. A group of protesters in New York City who were part of PETA covered themselves in fake blood and lay almost naked on a giant meat tray. This was supposed to compare carnivorism to cannibalism.
If you aren't clean, you are filthy.
Smoking can cause a slow and painful death.
Thank you for watching.